Well, welcome back to the Angler Files. You join me on what is probably going to be my last documented carp trip of 2019. I don't know what more I can say than it hasn't been terribly fruitful this fall. Bite really slowed down for me after August. I mean, haven't been able to get out nearly as much with all the other obligations I have, but in past years, September, October has often been quite graceful to me. But these past 2 years have been quite challenging, and so I've come out to a spot that I had a fish out of last week, and I was employing some very simple tactics. Some almost, I wouldn't say they're sure thing going to get you a fish at this time of year, but it certainly puts the odds in your favor. I'll definitely run over some of those tactics in a little bit. I kind of did this video for two reasons. One, I wanted to close off the 2019 year with a video. Second, I also wanted to talk a little bit about how this year's gone for me, plans for next year. So buckle in, and I'm not going to lie, I did have a knock just before I started the camera, so there's a really good chance that we could have some action. Now, unfortunately, by the time this video airs, we'll probably be into the winter, and I know I will personally be done carp fishing, and most of you will as well. However, this tactic, this first tip for fishing in the fall when the bite starts to slow down, can be employed as well in springtime. The idea of fish, but just before they pack it in for the winter, and fish just waking up after a long cold winter, in the early spring, very similar level of appetite. It's based on the water temperature, right? Based on how much they can digest, based on their metabolism. So bait as if there's only 2 to 3 fish in your swim. Even if there's 50, bait like there's only 2 to 3. When you put it in, keep it nice and tight. Don't spread it out too much. Try to keep it quite precise, So for me, I've got my scoop there, and I'm fishing in actually quite close. Because I've got quite a steep drop off here. I'm fishing a feature with a bit of a drop off, and I put in 2 scoops, and that was well over an hour ago. Like, I haven't put in any more bait since, and I'm running some method as well as a little bottom bait out there, and with any luck, with that minimal amount of bait, it won't give them too many free offerings, so hopefully they'll seek out the high nutrition bait that I've got out there. Because at this time of year, it really does apply that those HNBs, those high nutritional fish meal boilies and stuff, they really start to look for those really nutritious options before they pack it in for the winter, right? They're not necessarily looking for what's easy and accessible. That's not to say that corn won't work. That's not to say that tiger nuts won't work. Of course, tiger nuts are a little bit more nutritious than corn, but at this time of year, this is when I like to break out my HNBs, or if they're in the mood for a very high attracted, highly visible bait, that could be an option as well. But I am seeing some movement on the line. I've had a couple of indications, so there's definitely something in there. Could be a little wildly catfish as well, but really, as long as the alarm sounds. So as previously stated, I am running a bottom bait rig here. As you can see, pretty simple standard hair rig, and what I've actually gone with today is one of my homemade pumpkin spice boilies, a very high nutritional bait. Started off as a joke with my friends, as saying, hey, maybe the carp are seasonal, maybe they're looking for pumpkin spice. But funny enough, after I did some research and found out just how nutritious pumpkin seeds and pumpkin is itself, I came up with a bait here that I actually feel could be very effective at this time of year, especially with the spices and such that are present. But as you can also see, around that I have wrapped some of the unprocessed boilie mix, so I haven't boiled this. This forms a nice paste. At this time of year, paste can actually be quite effective. I have fished with paste with a great deal of success in the fall. It's basically the most nutritious version of a boilie, because once you boil a bait that has a lot of protein or anything in it, what happens is it actually denatures the protein. So it actually begins to break down the protein. The bait loses some of its nutritional content just because it's been boiled. So if you actually put on the unboiled boilie paste on the rig, on the actual bait itself, like wrap it around, it'll break down fast, and it'll provide a very attractive little circle of bait around your very boilie. So we'll get this one back out there, and hopefully we can turn a couple of those bumps into something a bit more committed. For those of you who followed the work I've done with the Anglophiles this year, you'll have seen that I started off my year fishing over in the UK, and I want to thank Paul and the lads once again for that incredible, I would say, trip of a lifetime. You know, I had such a great time with some really good company. Was there to see Paul land his 240s, which is, I think, Yateley Pads Lake history that was made that 3 days. You know, I had my first UK carp, a classic British leather. You know, it was an incredible trip. And you will be seeing more of Paul next year if everything goes as planned. By the time this video comes out, we probably should have everything set in stone if it's going to happen. Hopefully I can put Paul on his very first Canuck chunk, a proper Canadian 30. He's had plenty of 20s. Let's see if we can break that 30 mark for him. And for those of you who followed the Creek Chronicles, you will see that, you know, I caught the fish of a lifetime in episode 2, that remarkable wild koi. That was truly the pinnacle, I think, of my fishing career thus far. That was the catch of my life. Probably the most incredible 10 minutes I have ever had angling. Just like, I still get goosebumps thinking about that, you know, seeing that fish come up for the first time and then go into that back of that net. Like, watch that video if you really need to see me buckle at the knees again. Yeah, I can't say enough about that experience either. That was incredible. And for those of you who enjoyed the Creek Chronicles, I have good news. I will be continuing that into 2020. Still definitely pursuing my same carp waters, but maybe introducing a few other species as well. I don't know. I guess you'll just have to stay tuned and keep your eyes on this channel. I also intend to do perhaps a couple of videos on bait making, especially if I really find out that the bait that I'm using today is working. You know, talking a little bit more about HNBs and stuff like that. But no one really knows what I'm going to bring to the table next year. What I can tell you is that I will bring a few things. A couple hours in now. As you can see, I've got the jacket on. Also put the waders on too, just in case I need to go and release a fish off to the side here. But I've been seeing some knocking at the rod tip. It's definitely a sign that the fish are here. And I mean, they're significant enough that I know it's a carp, or at least a fish of substantial size. It could be a big cat. Oh. And that's my first indication in a little while. But it was a very aggressive one. So once again, I know it's nothing small. It's a bigger fish swimming around down there. It's definitely a carp or a catfish that is knocking the line about. You know, just noting how I'd seen a few of those knocks ahead of time, and it wasn't even registering on the siren. Stay close to your rods. Watch for all signs of indication at this time of year. You know, this isn't the time of year to go in and hide in your shelter. You know, if the weather is appropriate and you can be out here, watch, right? You never know when you might see some patch of bubbles that, you know, you wouldn't see if you weren't closer to the rods, closer to the water. But I'm very hopeful. I think that rig is presented properly, unless I just got done in there. But I'll definitely give it another half hour at least before I, pull that rig out. Definitely don't want to be pulling your rig in and out, in and out, in and out, over and over at this time of year. You just want to kind of get it in there, know it's sitting right, have the confidence, and you just got to play the waiting game. That might turn into something soon. Here's hoping. Oh, losing the first fish always hurts. What hurts more is the knowing that there's a fish swimming around with a hook and my bait in its mouth, because it broke the hook link. That's 25-pound ultra skin, and it's just sheared clean. Must have found an obstruction of some kind on the bottom. This rig was perfect when I casted it out. Quite a shock, really. But the positive here is that my hook bait worked. The high nutrition bait worked. Additionally, the tactic has worked of putting in just a little bit, enough to feed that one fish. I do think that there might be more than just that one around, just based on the number of knocks I was getting. So with any luck, hopefully they'll turn back around and they'll come back and try to have another little munch on the method mix, and hopefully find my rig amongst it. But man, what a devastating blow. What are you gonna do? Oh, well. I'm not gonna lie there. I had almost given up hope of there being any action at all after that heartbreaking loss. But I'd packed almost everything up except the rod, the net, and the landing mat. And it went off. And it is a beautiful, long fighting common. Oh, look at that. High doubles, but it doesn't matter. This time of year, every bite counts. And this one put up one heck of a scrap. Strong river common, that. Strong river common. Oh, man. Well, what can I say? I might have to come back and give it a go again tomorrow for a couple hours, just to see if one or two more might grace me. Oh, thank you, fish. Thank you, fish. Oh, thank you, fish. Well, I couldn't help myself. I saw how the weather was today, and I said last night I was going to come back, so I've come back again. But work has had me late today, so I'd only have maybe 2-3 hours. And the only thing that's really shaking my confidence is the fact that this wind is shifting between east and southeast. So it's, you know, if I got that south, that's occasionally, it's a bit of a warm breeze, and it's almost like I could feel the easterly pushing in, and it's cooler. And oftentimes you get an east push in, and that's the end of it, as I said before. But I'm running the same tactics I did last night. Method, paste wrapped around one of my pumpkin spice boilies, and I've thrown in one more method ball right on the top of it as well, just to try to offer a nice little bait pile, nice and precise, and let's hope that it can do the same as it did for me last night. Let's hope for a fish. Well, I've definitely got a few knocks. On the rod tip, I'm getting a couple of indications on my alarm. There's something in there and it's picking away at those method balls. Darkness has fallen, and although you may not be able to see much out there, and I've stopped the camera for just that reason, I am still seeing the odd knock at the rod tip, and I've had the alarm sound a couple of times still. So they're still poking about, they're still in that swim, they're still looking for food. And I know that pumpkin spice caught last night, so I still have oodles of confidence that that bait can do it again. As long as it's all sitting properly, we should be into a fish, hopefully very soon. I've bundled up significantly because the temperature has plummeted. Big east pushed in finally, and it is shaking me to my core. It is quite cold, and since the wind started whipping up, the indications have all but stopped. At least audibly, I can't see visibly really, but I haven't had any really good knocks in some time now. I think the window of opportunity slammed shut when that easterly pushed in. But okay, maybe I stand corrected. That's the first indication I've had in probably over half an hour. So I guess we're just going to have to give it a little bit more time.